little bit of time, and what I want to cover is something about not-for-profits, voluntary community groups. One of the difficulties is that they have so much terminology. So if we lump them all together and say not-for-profits, because basically that's what they do. They don't exist to make a profit. And then something about some of the worries that organisations have when they find out that they're going to be working with people from a university. And then some of the reasons why it's so good to happen. So that's what I want to cover. As Anne said in the introduction, I'm from an organisation called Compost. And the reason we're called Compost is that we help groups grow. We don't actually do things ourselves. We put a bit of goodness into an organisation and help it grow. So that could be helping them set up the right structure for what they want to do. It could be helping them with their governance. It could be helping them with their fundraising. So if I start with a little bit about not-for-profits, they come from a very different place to almost any other type of organisation. So you'll get the public sector organisations that are there to do things that have been set by the government as a good thing to happen. You'll get the private sector organisations who, while some of them are very honourable and others aren't, they're still basically there to make a profit for their shareholders. And then you get the not-for-profits. And they've been set up by people that have a passion. They've seen that something's missing in the world or in their own community, and they have a passion about that, and they will set up an organisation to meet that need, to sort of address that passion. They don't have to have any qualifications. They just have to have the want and the need and the space to do something. They often start with people that don't even get paid. They start from volunteers. And they grow from there, but the people that have started them don't know anything about business and that. So that's where we engage with them. They come along and they go, we've noticed this. We want to do something about it. How do we go about doing it? How do we get registered? What legal aspects do we have to follow? So you will find that voluntary and community organisations, charities, not-for-profits, whatever people call themselves, will be as varied as the number of needs that you can imagine. And they will come from all walks of life to set that up. They will usually have very interesting backgrounds, but it's all lived in experience. And they come in as many shapes and sizes as you can possibly imagine. A good way of thinking about them is think about the retail sector. You've got the great big shops like sort of Selfridges or Tesco's or Sainsbury's. Then you get the smaller franchises. There might be 2 or 3 of those. And then there's the little tiny one-man corner shops. You will find all of those in the voluntary and community sector. You'll have the great big ones, the international ones like Oxfam. You'll have the British ones like English Heritage and National Trust. And then you'll have the small ones that just work in a certain area. And then you'll get the really tiny ones that are just working in their own neighbourhood and that. So that's a little bit about the not-for-profits. When a university approaches a not-for-profit, there is an element of, oh, do I want to do this? And some of the things that organisations have told me are at the top of their concerns about this is, will I be able to communicate with academics? I'm not one. How am I going to talk to them? And will they understand what I'm saying, what my organisation does? And will they have any idea what my beneficiaries, what the people that we do our services for are like? You know, because they're the people that are in need. And some of you may find that if you're having a difficulty, everything goes out the window. So you could have somebody who was perfectly able to communicate their need, and then something went wrong and they're needing help by that charity, but actually everything else goes wrong. It's not a single person. So they're worried about that. Will they be able to use what you give them and what they learn from the experience? Or will it not be practical enough for them to carry on and spread out through their organisation? And will there be an element of understanding and sympathy between the two organisations? And that's some of the concerns that people find when they first start. But it works, and it really does work. You know, I mean, Anne told you in the introduction that there are a lot of experiences, and I'm sure you'll hear from all the students how fulfilling and amazing it is. So it really is worth doing something about it. But it takes a bit of hard work. There needs to be lots of questions, lots of discussions. There needs to be an exploration about each other's worlds. There's a saying that people sometimes say, you need to walk in their moccasins to understand their life. And that's very much about how you get into an organisation. You need to find out what they do, how they do it, and why they do it that way. And that will be really easy for them to answer because it's their passion. It's what they do. And they're really excited about why they do it and what they do it for. But you need to learn their language. As Anne said, UCL loves acronyms. Every area of work has an awful lot of shorthand and jargon. There's no such thing as a silly question, just ask. Just because they've worked all their life using these phrases doesn't mean that everybody in the world understands them. So lots of questions, lots of discussions, appreciation of each other's knowledge, because there are different types of knowledge, and the people that work every single day with a group of people that are facing a need have a huge wealth of knowledge about what happens to people when that thing goes wrong, and how you can talk to people and help them find remedies and that. And after all this discussion, you will both change. The organisation will change a bit because it's had engagement with you, and you will change a bit because you've had engagement with the organisation and hopefully some of the beneficiaries. And you will find some common ground, and you'll be able to do amazing things. So when I've talked to organisations that have got to the end of the process, the first thing they say was, that was astonishing. I haven't met any organisation that is sorry they signed up for anything like this. They now understand why they do things and why things happen, because they've looked at what they do under a microscope and they've unpicked, why does this happen? How do we do this? How do we do it better? And every organisation comes away with something that will have been co-produced, and that makes it better. It could be a tool, it could be a way of working, it could be a frame of mind, but by the action of talking through this and discussing it, you've co-produced things. And the other thing that they get from working with universities is they get something that gives them a bit of almost like the moral high ground. They're able to go to their funders and say, well, actually, this isn't something we made up. We made it together with the academic world, and it's actually been proven and it's worked, and it's got a level of gravitas and depth to it because we worked on it together with the academic world. And funders actually think, well, they're not just Mrs. Bloggs from down the road who's having a go at doing something. It's much more than that. So I'd really encourage you to do this. It's such a window onto another world. And we find it's really valuable for our organisations. So good luck.